A Mother's Grief, a Mother's Revenge by the Prowler. A woman sits at her kitchen table, drinking from her cup of coffee as she suppresses a brief moment of grief. She's partially hidden behind the shadows of her darkened kitchen, only being able to see her mouth as she sips her coffee, thanks to the light that shines from the living room. Like every other night, she is in mourning, filled to the brink with an never-ending sadness from the loss of her children. Not yet gray, and she's already buried 4 children, all taken by the hands of the Bayside Ripper. They say a parent should never have to bury a child, especially 4, all in their teenage years. The woman isn't the only parent in town who is experiencing loss from this madman, but she has paid the heaviest price. As single mother, she sits alone, trying to comprehend the loss, the futures that will never take place, and the subsequent end of her bloodline, countless generations wiped out by the Bayside Ripper. She stares ahead blankly, thinking of the happy times she experienced with her children, the birthdays, milestones, Christmas mornings, holiday occasions, the vacations, all the things, all the joys that make a family a family. Her happy thoughts, however, didn't last long, as they soon transitioned back to grief and rage as she thought back to the night she was woken by the police pounding at her door. Just a typical summer night in Bayside. She was sleeping peacefully as she knew her children were safe, camping on the lake with their friends, who also happened to be their neighbors throughout the street they lived on. Little did she know, however, that as she slept peacefully, her children and the children of the neighbors were being butchered by the Bayside Ripper. The screams that rang out throughout the neighborhood that night play through her head as she takes another sip of coffee. The somber looks on the faces of the officers flashed across her mind as she remembered the moment the words left their lips, that her children were dead. A single tear fell from her eye as she thought about the car ride that night to the hospital. She remembered falling to her knees, screaming and crying as she had to identify the pieces of her children. Her hand tightened around the handle of her coffee mug as she tried to suppress those thoughts back to a place that allowed her to function, that would allow her to make it through the night. That summer night, 2 years ago, ruined the lives of 5 households on Black Grove Drive, a street that has always been filled with the laughter of children throughout the years, was never the same. Just a residential tomb, left somber and heartbroken. Their neighborhood wasn't the only one affected by the Bayside Ripper, however. Many other households also felt his deadly grip around the town of Bayside. He savagely spanned the entire community, and the fear is continuously felt, not knowing when he'll strike again. 2 years, he's stalked the streets of Bayside, and the police haven't gotten a day closer to catching him. The community waits in fear, and parents hope and pray they're not added to the growing list of their neighbors who have lost a child to this killer. The grieving woman thinks of this every night as she sits alone in her darkened kitchen, hoping no one else has to go through the pain that she has had to endure. There is, however, something different about tonight, for the woman isn't sitting alone on this stormy night. She has a guest. A slight smirk forms in the corner of her mouth as she sits her cup of coffee down on the kitchen table, next to a gun and meat cleaver. The muffled and restrained sounds of heavy breathing and squirming can be heard as she does this. She then reaches above her, tugging down slightly on the chain from the kitchen ceiling fan that immediately lights up the room, revealing a bound and gagged man that sits across from her. His eyes squint and briefly struggle to adjust to the light. He also shows signs of a recent injury, bleeding from a wound to the right of his forehead. An extreme swelling from that side of his face as well. It seems he was viciously attacked. Well, yes, the woman has been grieving these past 2 years. She has also been busy, searching, looking for revenge against the man who slaughtered her children. Night after night, she stalked the streets and alleyways for the Ripper. Little did he know, but the hunter was being hunted. She finally found him last night. He was hiding in the bushes, watching, researching the movements of his next victim. She snuck up behind him and clubbed him over the head with her gun, knocking him out on the spot. He never suspected it. He never thought there would be a more dangerous predator on the streets that night than himself. Now, he sits at the grieving mother's kitchen table, awaiting his fate. Cornered, he tries to get out of the situation. He squirms frantically and tries his best to motion for the woman to remove his gag. He has something to say after all. You see, he isn't just a brutal killer. He's also a charmer, a very good actor, an escape artist, you might say. Someone in his line of work has to be. How else can you explain him being able to kill for years without being caught? Like the time he had the bodies of 2 teenagers in the back of his pickup, wrapped tightly and ready to be disposed of. It was at night, and he was on his way to dispose of the 2 corpses at a spot he picked up in Breacher's Woods. He was pulled over by a highway police officer because of a busted-out taillight. Not only were the corpses hidden in the back, but he also had the murder weapon wrapped up and hidden underneath the passenger seat right next to him. While nerves must have crept in while he waited for the officer to approach his window, the Ripper remained calm, cool, and kept his composure, talking his way out of the situation and not drawing suspicion or unwanted attention to himself with a foolish mistake. He was always clever, very smart and charming. These traits are what have kept him a free man all these years, and he's hoping once the gag is removed from his mouth, he can use his acting and charm to help him get out of another sticky situation. The woman grants his muffled pleas and removes the gag. She's interested in what he has to say. He starts to beg, asking why she is doing this to him. He even forces out a tear or two for effect. Like I said, excellent actor. The woman sat her coffee mug down on the table and calmly explained why he was sitting here, bleeding and tied up, gently stroking the handle of the meat cleaver that sat in front of her. She then smirked at the man and said, "Enough of your lies. I know who you are. You're the Bayside Ripper, and you killed my children. Crying won't save you." He screamed that she had the wrong man, that he was innocent. He wasn't the Ripper. That person was crazed. He said, "I'm not crazed. I'm no killer. I have a family, a wife, and 2 children." He continued to cry, hoping it would sway her thoughts, but it did not. She slammed her hand straight down on the table and screamed, "Enough of this shit! Those fake tears don't do anything for me. I know who you are. I saw you watching those people through the window while you hid in the bushes. What were you doing? Picking berries? Also, after I knocked you out and put you in the back of my car, I decided to check your car for further clues. I found your murder kit, the knife, the ropes, your goddamn mask. I've been searching for you for years, and I finally fucking found you. Tonight's the night you pay, not just for ruining my life, but the countless lives of the families you've destroyed throughout town. The Ripper's about to get ripped, limb from limb." She reached for the meat cleaver as she said this, raising it above her head. The man began to scream hysterically. That's right, scream. I'm about to carve me up some steaks. I would like to give a heartfelt thank you to the special friends of the channel for your overwhelming generosity. If you would like to support the channel, the link is below in the description. Also, please send me your stories and poems to duchessofdarkness27@gmail.com. You can also find me on Instagram at duchess.ofdarkness and Twitter at duchessofdarkn2. I want to thank all my listeners for your kindness, your encouragement, and your support. It means the world to me. Thank you for joining me. Until next time.